Pride officially kicks off in 12 days. Here's a preview of a political warfare attack that's coming. Pride versus homophobic Christian nationalism will be a big theme. And by the way, guys, because I saw someone in the chat earlier said James Lindsay's not talking about conservative Christians, he's talking about Christian nationalists. No one on the left is going to make that decision, that distinction. No one in popular culture is going to make that decision, that distinction. It's not going to happen. So every single thing that the Christian nationalists do, all conservative Christians are going to be painted with that. And if you are a conservative Christian and you don't like that, then it is incumbent upon you to listen and to speak up and to make your voice louder than the Christian nationalists. This unconventional warfare narrative, ICBM, has already been launched, so you should start preparing now. Oh, hang on, there we go. Both sides of the dialectic here are fully operationally prepared. The left will attack Christian nationalism by name and rightly link it to homophobia and anti-LGBTQ hate. So here's the thing. And then he says that group is excitedly proud of those features and will be eager to be proven right. What he means by that is Christian nationalists are very proudly homophobic. They will tell you. They've been in my Twitter feed for several days now. They will literally talk to you about how they want to stone the gays. I'm not making that up. They are overtly homophobic. Now, here is the trap that conservative Christians who are not homophobic Christian nationalists walk into. Is they come into the conversation and they don't realize that they're talking to Christian nationalists, and they go, "But I don't agree with gay lifestyle. I don't agree with the gay lifestyle." That's how the conservative Christians respond. But you know, we should love them as people, but I don't agree with the lifestyle. I don't agree with it. Do you guys see the problem there? If you're coming into a conversation with a Christian nationalist that is overtly, in the name of Christ, damning all gay people to hell, talking about them being thrown off buildings, talking about them in the most disgusting way that you can possibly talk about them just for being gay, and you, as the conservative Christian who is not the Christian nationalist, you come into the conversation and you go, I don't agree with their lifestyle at all, but you know, maybe we should just love them as people, but I don't agree with their lifestyle, which is exactly what's always said. You look like you're siding with them. Because if you lead with, I don't agree with the gay lifestyle, how do you think that's going to be interpreted by people who don't care if people are gay? And they're seeing you colluding with a Christian nationalist. You might not know it's a Christian nationalist, but you should, because they're being overtly homophobic. But you come in and you lead with, I don't agree with the lifestyle. It makes you look like you hate gay people. I'm telling you right now, you might not think that's fair. You might whine. You might complain. You might try to rationalize it. You might try to say, but Jesus told me to. And then you're going to look even more homophobic than you did before. And then you will be wrapped up with the Christian nationalists, and you did it to yourself. But let's back up and focus on James Lindsay's thread. James Lindsay's thread is specifically in regards to Christian nationalists. And he says that the woke left has set the Christian nationalists up to paint the Christian nationalists as as gay haters. And the Christian nationalists are fully and completely ready to take the bait. Excuse me. They are fully and completely ready to take the bait. Okay? And they want to. They don't care. And then you have this tertiary thing of like other Christians that are like, we just don't like the lifestyle. And then they get wrapped up with the Christian nationalists, which is exactly what the left wants. The left wants all Christians to be perceived as gay haters, and you're giving them what you want. Every single time that you say, I don't agree with the lifestyle, you're giving the left what they want. You're giving them the win. Guys, if you are really a Christian, you don't have to advertise your Christianity at all times. There is nothing that's compelling you to say, I don't agree with the gay lifestyle. There's no reason you need to say that. You can just zip it. In zipping it, you don't take the bait and you don't align yourself with the overtly homophobic Christian nationalist. If you really are a Christian and you really have that relationship with God and you really believe that, then God knows you don't need to announce it to the world at every opportunity to prove that you're still a Christian and you're going to denounce the gays, but you're not really going to denounce the gays because you say, I don't agree with their lifestyle. And you think that doesn't align you with gay haters. No, just zip it. Just zip it. Let's keep going. Mass polarization that moves centrist normies and moderate lefts and activates leftists while splitting the coalitions on the right and activating reaction will follow like clockwork. Tensions will mount and trigger a Charlottesville 2.0 in the battlefield environment. So what he's saying here is that the left is setting the right up to react. This is like in War Games. Does anyone remember that movie War Games from the 80s? Does anyone? That's a great movie, by the way. We should watch that movie for movie night sometime. Matthew Broderick. Does anyone remember the movie War Games from the 80s? I know the chat's a little bit behind. How did you win? So people are saying, yes, we remember that movie. Okay. In the movie War Games from the 80s, how did you win the game Thermonuclear War? How did you win the game? You won the game by not playing. Yes, Beth. That's exactly right. The only way to win the thermonuclear war game from War Games was not to play in the first place. The only way to win is not to play. You don't play. You don't play. You don't play. You don't play. This is the same thing. When your enemy is setting you up to react because they know you're going to react to anything they do, the only way to win the game is not to play. Just opt out. You don't have to speak up. You don't have to react to them. You don't have to give them the fuel that they want. You can just leave and focus on something else. They're setting a trap. That's exactly right. If you react, they win. If you don't react, they lose. That's the game we're playing. Expect a steady media drumbeat of these narratives centered on the Christian reactionary movement many have been warning about, and expect them to take the bait 1,000%. Yes, they will. People with better sense should prepare and take measures to avoid getting caught up in the negation. That's exactly what James Lindsay's saying. Don't react. Conservative Christianity will be largely politically nullified in the process. So now notice that James Lindsay has switched from Christian nationalists to conservative Christians. How did they nullify conservative Christianity? Because the conservative Christians aligned themselves with the Christian nationalists because they didn't know what they were aligning with. Christians will be identified as homophobic or homo. The damage this is going to do to this conservative movement and Christians is astronomical, but it can be mitigated if it doesn't blindside. My assessment is that mainline Christians and conservatives have no idea this narrative ICBM is about to land squarely in the middle of their camp. No, they don't. And I'm going to prove that later. Others are eager for it and want the excuse to play the dialectical game that has been set for them. It's already incoming. It's already started. Matt Walsh, Matt Walsh is doing the left's dirty work like no one has ever done the left's dirty work before. The reaction side of this dynamic has already been working diligently to nullify me and all political warfare analysis as homo among conservatives on this issue. Thoughts and prayers, I guess. And then we have Dave Rubin, who doesn't understand this either, to be honest about it. So is it if you don't react, they will escalate until you do? Maybe. Or, I mean, you don't have to react to roll out a proactive strategy of your own. I'm not prepared to talk about that today, but there's a difference between reacting to what someone else is doing and rolling out a proactive strategy of your own. Okay? That's another story for another day. We're not going to talk about that right now, but those are different. So no, it's the left will always continue to escalate. Again, the four goals of the woke left are gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. They will always escalate. They will always push for more power. The only way is to opt out of the game that they're playing by not reacting to them and playing your own game instead. That's really the key. Play a different game. Make the left react to you. Just play a different game. The problem with the right is the right doesn't want to play a different game. The right doesn't know how to strategize. The right doesn't know how to do long-term thinking. The right only wants to play the game that the left is asking them to play. I make this analogy in my book, Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. You can find the link below to buy it. But I make this analogy in my book. I say, if the devil came down to earth and the devil said to you, or up to earth, I suppose, if the devil came to earth and the devil said to you, we're going to play a game and I get to set all the rules of the game and I get to change the rules of the game anytime I want to change the rules of the game. And if you lose the game, you're coming to hell with me. But if you win the game, then you get to stay here or go to heaven or whatever. So the devil has told you, the devil is setting the rules of the game. You're playing on the devil's playing field. The devil can change the rules of the game at any time that they want to change the rules of the game because it's their game. And if you lose the game that you're playing with the devil, you're going to hell for all eternity. Damnation. Is that a game you're going to play? Are you going to agree to the rules of that game? That is quite literally what the conservative right is doing every single time they react to the left. Every single time they react, they are agreeing to the rules that the devil has set, that the devil will change at any time. They are doing it on the devil's playing field. And when they lose, they're going to hell with the devil, but it's inevitable that they'll lose because the devil is the one that controls all the mechanisms. Instead, they could say, nope, not interested. And they could go play their own game on their own field and make the devil come over to them. And then they say, we set the rules of the game over here. We can change the rules whenever we want to change them. That's the game you need to be playing. Don't play their game, play your own. And of course, this pissed off the Christian nationalists, the conservative Christians. I have no idea who this guy is, but he's got such a ridiculous reactionary thread to James Lindsay that I had to show it to you. So this is a general kind of conservative Christian response to what James Lindsay is telling them, and James Lindsay is giving them really good advice. Beth, that's so nice, Beth. Thank you. Oh my God. Beth, queen of the chat. Perpetual queen of the chat goes to Beth. There's only one other perpetual king of the chat, and that is King Peter of the chat. Beth has now ascended to perpetual queen of the chat status. Also, because not just because of a $400 super chat, by the way, Beth is also based and amazing. And guys, by the way, what it means to be a king or the queen of the chat is that you can ignore my rules and you can say and do whatever you want, and I will never ban you or block you. You have carte blanche to do whatever you want. Oh my god, Beth, thank you. Beth says this is for sharing the best advice I've heard from anyone. Put this towards attending the next socialist event. We may not agree on everything, but I have mad respect for you regardless. Thank you, Beth. I really do appreciate it. And I know you won't disrespect my rules, but you can, Beth. All hail Queen Beth. Yes. Wow. Things I didn't expect today. Thank you. I'm going to put that towards advertising. Or maybe or to do the event. Either way, I will reinvest Beth's money well. I promise. All right. Now that we're all teed up with capitalism, Autumn, I know you hate capitalism, but sometimes, some of us like it. Flowers for Beth. Now let's hear the Christian reaction. For months, my friends have been asking me, what's wrong with James Lindsay? Why is he acting so strange? First of all, no, they haven't. No one has been asking you that, bro. Come on. No, 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 no. I've been saying I don't really know. James Lindsay refuses to even have a conversation with me. But I finally have some thoughts to share, a thread on what's wrong with James. The first thing to understand about where James's head is at right now is that he believes conservative Christianity is about to be largely politically nullified in the United States. And he's correct. This isn't a long-term prediction. James has said repeatedly the destruction of conservative Christian influence is going to happen in a massive attack by the left over the coming summer. And he's correct. James compares the attack on conservative Christianity in the US to an ICBM that has already been launched and will hit within a matter of weeks, if not days. And he's correct. The second thing to understand about James is that he believes the content of the coming attack is a forced dichotomy between Christian nationalist, unapologetic homophobia and the LGBTQ agenda, which he describes as transing kids. Also correct. The idea is that the left is looking for a repeat of George Floyd's summer of 2020, except this time, instead of pitting supposedly violent cops against blacks, it will pit supposedly not supposedly homophobic Christians. Overtly homophobic Christians. But it will pit supposedly homophobic Christian nationalists against trans people, and by supposedly he means overtly homophobic. James believes that in this confrontation between the LGBTQ movement and what he calls homophobic Christian nationalism, the result will be violence that will take innocent lives, as Charlottesville 2.0 in the battle of the environment. Well, maybe, maybe not. It doesn't have to be Charlottesville. It doesn't have to be George Floyd to actually make a significant cultural impact. But could it be? Yeah, I think trans Floyd, drag Floyd is absolutely going to happen. I think it's only a matter of time. This lethal violence by homophobic Christian nationalism is what the left hopes to provoke. This will be used as an excuse for the destruction of conservative Christian political power in America. Correct. Is DeSantis on now? We're going to be talking about DeSantis a little bit. I've got DeSantis stuff. The third thing to understand is James doesn't think identifying Christian nationalists with homophobia and anti-LGBTQ hate is unfair, because it's not unfair. James is with the left on this. James is a leftist. Oh, Twitter Spaces is no longer available? So, guys, James Lindsay is a leftist because he correctly points out that Christian nationalists are homophobic douchebags. He says they rightly identify Christian nationalists with anti-LGBT hate. Well, that's funny. I mean, they all think I'm a lesbian, and my feed has reflected that for the past couple days. Don't take the term Christian nationalism too seriously here. James doesn't follow theoretical debates on the right. When asked who the Christian nationalist leaders are, he really doesn't know. Well, no, he does know. In fact, he overtly knows Andrew Torba, absolutely. William Wolf, absolutely. William Wolf, by the way, I am absolutely convinced that William Wolf is absolutely going to get caught in a hotel room with an underage boy someday. No one be surprised when that happens. William Wolf is projecting his obvious repressed gay angst, and he's going to wind up in a hotel room on the floor with a nose full of blow with an underage boy someday. I it's a prediction. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I'm just saying he's going to have an Andrew Gilliam moment. He is. Nick Fuentes would also be on that list if I'm honest about it. There are others too. In fact, James seems to think the entire national conservative movement, including Jews like me, as well as anti-Catholic, anti-nationalists like Adrian, are all Christian nationalists in some broad sense. Well, oh, he did call them out by name. Oh, how funny. Reading this as sympathetically as I can, I think James is using the term Christian nationalism to mean anyone who thinks marriage is between a man and a woman. Yes, that's overtly homophobic, and that transing kids. So this jackass, check this out. This is the reaction of the conservative Christian right to James Lindsay's perfect and beautiful warning about the left is trying to get you to react, assholes. The conservative Christians are like, James Lindsay is a leftist and he wants to trans your kids. James Lindsay thinks there's nothing wrong with transing your kids. And James Lindsay, because he's a leftist, he just hates that we don't want to trans kids. Do you want to trans kids? James, are you a pedophile? Are you a groomer, James? I mean, it is completely lost on these people that James Lindsay quite literally coined the term groomer. It is completely lost on these people that he literally coined the effing term groomer. And they're like, James Lindsay hates Christians because we just want to stop the transing of children. We just want to save the children. Why does James Lindsay want all the kids trans? Do you guys know now, for the Christians and the conservatives who are upset with me earlier? Do you guys understand now why you look crazy every time someone talks about gay people and trans people and says, I don't mind if people are trans or gay, and you bust into the conversation with, what about the children? You look insane, okay? You look insane. It's these groups that James is loosely calling conservative Christianity. They're the ones James says the left is rightly accusing of homophobia and anti-LGBTQ hate. I mean, has anyone looked at Andrew Torba's posts on Gab? Because I promise you, if you look at Andrew Torba's posts on Gab, you're going to see quite clearly that Andrew Torba doesn't like the gays, okay? If you go on Gab at all, you're going to see a whole lot of people who don't like the gays. I promise you. They don't like the Jews either, by the way. They really hate the Jews. And they're the ones who James believes will be politically nullified this summer. I actually agree with James on some things here. I agree that the LGBT community is intentionally being used by some on the woke left as a blunt instrument to smash conservative Christianity and Orthodox Judaism in America. These elements on the woke left understand that there's only so far that conservative Christians and Orthodox Christians can bend. Beyond that point, Christians and Jews have no choice but to make a stand and fight back politically. That point has already been reached. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where you enter the game on the left's playing field, playing by the rules the left has set for you, that the left can change at any time. This is where you go up to them and says, yes, devil, yes, I would like to play your game by your rules, and if I lose, I am damned for all eternity. Every single effing time that conservative Christians are like, we've been pushed too far. You are saying that you are reacting to what the left is doing and that you are entering the left's playing field and that you're going to play by the left's rules and you really expect to win. That is stupid. It's stupid. I'm sorry. It's stupid. Vision pass massive tax incentive for married single households, even more tax incentives for raising children in two-parent households, passive resistance to Marxism against Marxism. You know what? If we're going to have taxes, fine. If we have to have taxes, you know what I would like to do? I would like to just eliminate taxes altogether. Can we just eliminate taxes? Can we just do that? That would solve all the problems and would be the ultimate resistance to Marxism is to eliminate taxes. We would all be better off. We'd all be happier. Does an attack need to be real or framed that way? Well, if you're reacting to the attack as though it's real, then it's real. If you are reacting to a false attack, you've made it real in your reaction to it. And the left's argument has in fact been framed so that by defending traditional Christian and Jewish marriage, or by opposing the transing of children, again, because it's only the conservative Christians and the Jews that are against transing the kids, that's it. By opposing the transition of children, Christians and Jews will, in the eyes of the left, look like people consumed by homophobia and anti-LGBTQ hate. Well, no, that's not why. It's because you are aligning with people who are overtly homophobic. Shauna says, just wait, the Christian nationalists will demand that Christians stop following the Daily Wire because of Ben Shapiroism to Old Testament. Yes, they will. They hate Ben Shapiro. The Christian nationalists are overtly anti-Semites. They're anti-Semitic. Like, Yoram doesn't understand this yet, apparently, but I promise you that I have been called the Jew as an insult 18 ways from Sunday on Twitter in the last 3 days. The Christian nationalists are overtly anti-Semitic. Nick Fuentes is overtly anti-Semitic. Andrew Torba is overtly anti-Semitic. They all hate Ben Shapiro. They hate the Daily Wire. The fact that this guy hasn't figured that out yet just tells you that this guy is not as smart as he thinks he is. And as James says, some on the left have been primed to go after conservative Christianity and Orthodox Judaism as if these old religious communities are an evil that must be destroyed. Well, no, that's not actually what he's talking about at all. Congratulations, you're not very smart. Assuming all this is right, no, it's not. I think I can take a stab at answering the question I've been asked by so many friends. He hasn't been asked this by anyone, he's making that up. On both the right and the left. What is wrong with James? The key to answering that question is recognizing that James really believes that the woke left is correct when they say that the political mobilization of conservative Christians and Jews is motivated by homophobia and anti-LGBTQ hate. Already wrong. And that's why James has spent recent months attacking anyone that he thinks might be able to politically mobilize Christian conservatives and Jews on issues such as transing children. This guy literally thinks that James Lindsay is only doing this because James Lindsay wants to trans the children. He thinks we're all anti-LGBTQ hate, just like the left does. But it's actually worse than that. James is rapidly losing a conservative Christian and Jewish audience that he once thought were going to be his allies. Well, that's your fault for lying about him. This has to be painful and I feel bad for him. No, bro. No. I've been trying desperately to get you assholes to leave me alone and out yourself so I can block you on Twitter for 2 effing years. I'm not talking about all Christians and all Jews. I'm talking about assholes like this. I'm guessing that's where these ugly online explosions come from. But you might ask, what does James expect conservative Christians and Jews to do? Everyone keeps saying that in the war on woke, James is the general. If so, then what instructions does the general have for us conservatives? I've already explained this. Play your own effing game. Come up with a proactive strategy. Act like fully functioning adults. I know you weren't asking me this question, but if I was asked this question, I would say, play your own game. Come up with a proactive strategy. Come up with a vision. Come up with something that has nothing to do with what the left is doing. Stop reacting to the left. Come up with your own effing plan. Present it to the American people. Stop shitting on gay people. Stop shitting on adult trans people. Stop equating gay people and trans people and drag queens with being pedophiles. I don't know. Maybe do something that could get you some votes. That would be what I would do. Am I crazy? Philip said, I met the trans Floyd attack. Okay, so let me go back, Philip. Philip said, does an attack need to be real or framed that way? I met the trans Floyd attack. Well, they're going to, if there is any instance in which a drag queen or a trans person gets murdered by a conservative, they are going to frame it as trans Floyd. So it doesn't matter. It could be like, let's say, because, okay, there are conservatives who like trans people. I hope people know that. And by like, I mean really like, really like in the bedroom. Like, do you guys know what I'm saying? Okay, yeah, there are absolutely conservatives who like trans people. Let's say you have a conservative stooping a trans person, okay? Which is not out of the realm of possibility at all. And something goes wrong. There is a fight of some sort. There is an altercation. Now, they were engaged, not engaged to be married, but engaged. They were engaged in shenanigans. And there was no animosity towards the transness of the person because they were engaged in shenanigans. But something happened to make the whole thing go awry. And the trans person ended up getting killed by the conservative who was stooping them a moment ago, okay? It's not an anti-trans attack because they're not against trans people. Something else happened. That would absolutely be framed as a trans Floyd attack, okay? Because you've got a conservative and you've got a trans person and one has harmed the other. It has nothing to do with the person being trans at all. Maybe it was like a drug deal that has gone wrong. Maybe that William Wolf guy was like buying coke off the trans person that he was stooping in the hotel room. Like, I don't know. Something else went wrong, but you got a conservative that has caused harm to a trans person. That will absolutely be your trans Floyd incident. Does that make sense? That might have been on a way off of left field where you guys didn't think I was going to go with that. Of course, it's official. Ron DeSantis has been running for president forever. Chicanery. That's another good word. Anyway. James's answer is quite clear. What's going to happen this summer is that centrist moderates and normies are going to move to the left in order to protect themselves. In other words, most people will follow James by moving to the left. Again, he's arguing that James Lindsay is a leftist. Instead of the conservative Christians following the good advice that James has for them, they're like, James is a leftist that just wants all the children transed. It's bullshit, guys. Meanwhile, the Christian reactionary movement, i.e. Christian nationalists and other conservatives, will 100% take the bait that will be kept organizing politically and will consequently be annihilated by a greatly enlarged left. True. True. Read that last sentence again. It contains the marching orders that conservatives have received from General James. People get caught, people with better sense should prepare and take measures to avoid getting caught up in the negation. And he keeps going on and on and on. But my point here, and I just don't feel like reading the rest of his thread. My point here is that James Lindsay has very clearly laid out what's going on. And conservative Christians, because they're caught in their feelings don't care about your facts when you are a conservative Christian or a Jew, as Yoram is, a conservative Jew. They're all up in their fifis. And they're not listening to what is being said at all. Nope, you can't, because that is not what queer theory is about. Come to Socialism Saturday and you will learn what queer theory is about.